In the 21st century, the world is at our fingertips, enabling us to just pick up a suitcase and travel with no questions asked. Just a couple of clicks online and we're transported across the world to one of the must-see places promoted by the tourism industry. But with a few clicks of the thumb on social media, we can be discouraged from visiting some of the legendary destinations. At the outposts of the last land surfaces before the vast Pacific Ocean, the Galapagos Islands have always fueled the fantasies of scientists, wildlife photographers, and scuba diving tourists. We have a tendency to forget, however, that on 4 of these 40 or so islands so dear to Charles Darwin, 30,000 Homo sapiens still live today. A species, our own, whose adaptation has been accelerated by the health crisis, under the wary eye of the tortoises and sea lions. To understand, let's head behind the scenes. Let's embark on a different sort of journey. The Galapagos, land of the giant tortoises. Whether or not you can place them on a map, these volcanic islands embody this voyage. And elsewhere, at the origins of the world.
The Galapagos today are like a child's dreamland.
We were able to have this land all to ourselves, in fact.
It's a perfect site, ideal for studying the dynamics between man and nature.
From Paris, it takes almost 48 hours to reach this natural World Heritage Site. A strictly protected sanctuary where, on top of your flight and accommodation costs, you have to pay an entry fee.
Bienvenidos a Galápagos. Disfruten las mejores islas del mundo.
2,500 species, a core of which exists nowhere else on Earth, live on this rocky lava land. Powerful, prehistoric-looking fauna that inspired Charles Darwin's theory of evolution in the 19th century. Could the British biologist have ever imagined that the 30,000 inhabitants of this wildlife sanctuary would one day be confronted, like the rest of the planet, with a pandemic that would force them to adapt? After months of inactivity, tourism has started up again on Santa Cruz, the main island of the Galapagos. An archipelago annexed in 1832 by Ecuador, which used these islands as a penal colony until 1959, when they were protected by a great national park, as well as being open to tourism. The contradiction between protecting the wildlife and exhibiting it dates from this time. Our first contact with Galapagos Islands is disconcerting because of its Disney-like appearance. The fauna has pride of place, almost on display. Today, near the port, in a street under construction, a small area has been cordoned off.
Hello, sir. Hello, madam. Have you seen it? The baby sea lion was born yesterday. It's 1 day old.
The what?
The baby sea lion, just over there. It's the Galapagos sea lion. It's an endemic species. It has 9 months of gestation, just like humans. It'll stay with its mother for the next 2 or 3 years. It'll suckle for 2 years. It's still suckling now. It'll stay there in the same place for the next 2 weeks or so. And then it'll go down to the sea with its mother to learn how to swim. It was the Galapagos National Park authorities who cordoned off this area for the protection of the newborn baby. That's normal here in the Galapagos, because we humans live together in harmony with the sea lions. We have to respect the species in order to protect it from extinction.
The animals that inhabit these islands, many of which can be found nowhere else in the world, seem almost blasé about humans behaving like paparazzi. A close cohabitation that reinforces anthropomorphic tendencies.
One of the characteristics of the Galapagos is the closeness between humans and the wildlife. This is the Galapagos' primary value. The fact that these animals have learned to live with man and that man has respected the different ecosystems.
To go behind the scenes in the Galapagos Islands, it's the women who show us the way.
These species are capable of love. Sea lions are very affectionate. They're very close to each other. The males protect their territory, the females. That's why they're so close. They've already got used to the tourists and the visits, to cohabiting with humans. But it's important to maintain a respectful distance from the animals.
In 2019, before the pandemic, the islands welcomed around 245,000 visitors annually, only 1/3 of which were Ecuadorians. The health crisis has reshuffled the deck. The lowering of prices has rendered these reputably idyllic islands accessible to a new clientele of visitors who come from all over South America to observe the tortoises or baby sharks supervised by the National Park Rangers. Off the island of Santa Cruz, where most tourists are content to stay, the mangrove zones are natural nurseries for the hammerhead sharks. One of the missions of the national park is to equip the animals with an international unique code, or satellite tag even, to determine their population, habitats, feeding habits, and migration routes.
We're on our way to Bahia Franklin, near the port of Santa Cruz. We're going to examine the young sharks in the mangrove zones. This is an activity that the Galapagos National Park Management carries out monthly. Out of all the things we do here, what I love the most are the field trips, being in contact with nature, being able to work directly with the wildlife. It's a very special feeling to be able to go into their habitat, to observe their behavior and to work directly with them. Here in the Galapagos, it's interesting to see that mangrove zones like this one are the prime habitat of numerous species. Sharks and others use them as nurseries for their young. The females give birth here, fish lay their eggs here, and because they're closed-off areas with lots of available food, they're the ideal spot, because from birth right up into adult life, they find everything they need here. Even the roots of the mangrove serve as a shelter for them in case of predation.
Temporarily freed from human presence during the lockdown, the baby sharks have come in closer to the coast. Jennifer and her team will therefore proceed in extremis to tag them in the Santa Cruz harbor. But time is of the essence. 2 minutes watch in hand between the baby shark's capture and release. 2 minutes maximum to measure it, weigh it,
1 kilo 9.
and microchip it.
I'm doing it quickly. 71 centimeters, 56 centimeters, 14.
What are you doing there?
It's an internal tag like a chip with a unique code. Before we release the shark, we check its reaction when we put it in the water. If it's strong and starts swimming away, we release it. But if not, we do a resuscitation, which means we have to do figure 8 movements in the water while opening its mouth, so that the water can go in and it can breathe in air to help it recover. The Galapagos are my home, and if you don't know the place where you live, you don't learn to love it, to preserve it. That's why I like the idea of people learning more about their environment, about the importance of nature, of the sea. Without preservation, there's no protection for this place, for our children and grandchildren. It's important. Everyone wants to preserve the place where they live, don't they?
Like everywhere else on the planet, the health crisis has awakened awareness in the Galapagos Islands. By depriving the archipelago between March 2020 and March 2021 of $850 million of tourism revenue, the pandemic has enabled its inhabitants and scientists to step back and consider things from a different perspective. Our meeting with Anne Guézou is going to demonstrate this. This botanist from Montpellier in the south of France has been living here for 20 years. The habitat of the giant tortoises holds no secrets for her.
We're approaching the village of Santa Rosa. We're on the higher part of the island, in the Santa Cruz agricultural zone. We're going to visit 2 sisters, Carmen and Emma, who are farmers here. All you see in this zone are farms.
With 25,000 hectares of arable land, only 14,000 of which are farmed, the Galapagos produce only 600 tons of food. The rest is imported. Anne has made environmental education her life's work. She focuses particularly on popularizing the results of the works of concerned scientists. From farm to farm, from finca to finca, Anne has made an inventory of the Galapagos Islands' endemic and imported plants. But she knows that here, as elsewhere, in order to meet the vital food needs for the humans and wildlife, farmers need to rediscover the empirical methods passed down from generation to generation.
Hello.
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 Welcome.
Good to see you.
You too.
Welcome.
I'm Carmen, and this is my husband, Fulton.
Pleased to meet you.
Like her sister, Carmen is guided by Luz Maria, Mary's light, the name given by her daughters to this finca of the future.
We're in
the Luz Maria finca, where we grow organic food. We grow citrus fruits, several varieties of fruit trees, vegetables, everything. Our aim is to create an agricultural finca for tourists and to have a year-round 100% sustainable agriculture. What we'd really like to do, you see, is we'd like to develop tourism for this on a national, local and international level, so that people can observe and be in contact with nature and discover how we grow the food and what kind of food. As you can see, here we have chili peppers. This is an insect repellent plant used to keep the insects away. These are all medicinal plants in this zone.
What does this plant cure?
It cures headaches. It purifies the air. People also say that it cures jealousy, negative feelings. It increases positive energy. And it's also used as a repellent in fungicides.
There's an incredible pool of knowledge and experience here. There are lots of things I don't even know myself, things in the field. It's really the people here, such as Carmen, who possess all the knowledge, the know-how. They're really a rich source of information. When we had the lockdown due to the pandemic, and suddenly no more flights were coming in, people started to panic. Because although we've always been aware of our dependency on the continent, we experienced for the first time the harsh reality of actually being cut off, literally. And this served as an important lesson for the local population. A lot of people have now started to plant again, even in the small villages. They now have their own little vegetable patch. People who had land that wasn't being used have now come back to plant on it. And this is a crucial issue, in fact, because we still depend on the continent for a large part of our food needs.
It's true, it's hard work at 55 years old. I have spinal problems because the work in the fields is very heavy work. But it's also very satisfying to produce your own food, to feed yourself with your own products and make a living from it. A family can subsist with no problem with an organic food farm such as this one. You're not going to become a millionaire, but you can feed your family. There's food and money all year round. Sit down there. That's an order. I'll sit here.
In the still very macho society of the Galapagos, Carmen and Emma's ecological farming venture illustrates a revolution in progress in these islands.
Okay.
I'm glad to have my own seeds that I've gathered myself. The advantage of this is that I know they're going to be good seeds because I'm the one who takes care of them. I clean them, I know at what date I have to plant them. I don't worry about whether they're going to grow or not. I know they're going to grow. The other advantage is that I don't have to buy them. I'm not going to pay $5 or $6 for something I already have. We don't have the money for that. Small, medium-sized, big. Yes, we have all sizes. During the pandemic, we felt more appreciated and useful, and this motivated us to keep sowing our seeds. But we already had our love for the land in our mother's womb. This farm is a strong connection to the past, because it's our parents' legacy, and I know it was a real sacrifice for them to have this land and maintain it. It serves as a lesson. Every time I pass under a tree like that one, where my dad liked to come and sit down to rest, I feel that peace, that joy that it brings us. Understanding what nature is, keeping it intact, not harming it, not selling it, not destroying it, but nourishing it. For me, it's a treasure. It's my entire soul. I see it more as a legacy for future generations. I'd like it to stay just the way it is, with no buildings, just plantations.
Survival of the fittest, too often presented as one of the foundations of Darwinism, may thus not prevail here. The law of the jungle is also a collective adventure that the pandemic has revealed.
When you read Charles Darwin, it all depends on who you are. I'm a social scientist, so I don't read about the evolution of species. I read what he said about people. And even if this isn't often talked about, he said a lot about people. When he arrived here, what surprised him the most was that there were very few inhabitants and that they were the uncivilized ones. We know the biological theories according to which the strongest species are the ones that survive. But here in the Galapagos Islands, we're studying what's happening at the social level, how, through the pandemic, collective actions have been taken in society on the different islands of the Galapagos, how people have been encouraged to come together to be able to provide food services or other services that enable the Galapagos Islanders to survive or deal with this crisis.
On behalf of the Charles Darwin Foundation, Gabriela Rodriguez is developing a social ecology. This Ecuadorian scientist travels often to the 4 inhabited islands of the Galapagos. We follow her to meet these islanders who cohabit so closely with the wildlife. At a 3-hour boat ride away in an ocean that's Pacific in name only, Isabella Island is worth the effort. Here, the sea and wildlife are like a second skin, a protective shell that the women are determined to preserve against all predators.
Look, there's Carlita.
Even if this involves making fun of the cliches of a paradise island, where mass tourism and sensuality are interwoven. A socially conscious singer and actress, Liseth fights as much against violence to women as she does against violence to nature.
Through art, games, outings, songs, films, we've made people aware of issues such as the environment, gender, conservation of nature, respect for one another. The message reaches people in a more poetic and profound way.
We promote connecting women with the business world and reinforcing their activities. We work a lot on human development. We think they're the leaders, they make decisions, and for us it's very important to put these women and their activities in contact throughout the islands.
It's not a project that relies on money, but on a central organization of the community. And around that, and it relies on the possible actions proposed by the Women's Association. So Isabella Island has a lot of potential. We have problems to face, but we have the means with which to work. We can't admit defeat.
The image we have of the Galapagos Islands is that of a natural paradise devoid of human beings. It's this primitive image of unspoiled nature that's presented in documentaries as the most beautiful thing in the world. But to show that human beings are also here, that they exist, that they live amongst nature on a daily basis, that this is our reality, that's what makes all the difference. The islands are marketed a certain way, but it's the human presence, in fact, that makes all the difference. We have a wonderful and primitive nature to show the world, but who takes care of it? Who presents it to the world? Who enables it to be recognized as a World Heritage Site? It's a human being. So if we put forward this image, we can say that we're the guardians of nature and we can share our knowledge globally.
By making the Galapagos Islands accessible to young, nature-conscious backpackers, the pandemic has brought new guardians to these legendary islands. Pierre and Aurélie are among them. This couple in their 30s set off on the eve of the lockdown for a 2-year round-the-world trip, during which they're scrupulously monitoring their environmental footprint to the point of carrying their waste around with them in their backpacks.
That too.
That was on the luggage?
Yes, it was.
Yes. This is our waste from about a week and a half ago. So there's chocolate, our guilty pleasure.
Yes.
We inquired about it, and it seems the waste's incinerated here on Isabella Island, but buried on San Cristobal Island. In a place like this, which is meant to be a sanctuary for wildlife, that's something that bothered us so much that we decided to bring this last bit of waste back with us to the continent.
We feel responsible for the future generations, for our children. My niece. Becoming an aunt had an immediate impact on me, and I think it was from that moment on that I began to change my way of life.
I think that traveling during this pandemic, the fact that there are fewer travelers, and maybe also due to the fact that we take more time, Well, I think that gives us more time here to think about the way in which we travel.
We have time to take a 48-hour bus ride instead of an hour's plane ride. So traveling slowly is ecological in the end.
It's true that we're privileged, yeah. But that makes us all the more responsible. Because you can't ask someone who lives in a slum to be at the forefront of societal changes or changes in mentality. We have the capacity to do that, and it would be unfair not to do it.
People who travel more and more are aware of the places they go to and try to participate in actions that can help nature, even on a small scale. So we decided to set up beach cleanups, for example, once a month, open to both locals and tourists, because it encourages contact between these groups of people, and they participate together in the cleanups despite the language barrier. They understand each other and come together in this action for the planet.
What we find the most are microplastics.
Yes, microplastics. Those are the worst.
With plastic, pollution at the global level is reflected at the local level. Even if we pick up a lot of plastic, it doesn't have an impact because it's happening on a global level. It's the same thing with fishing if we don't consume responsibly globally. Here, in the Galapagos Islands, we participate in maintaining our resources. And while this may attract tourists here, we need action on a global level.
The first site to be listed in 1978 by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, the archipelago was listed by that same institution 30 years later as a World Heritage in Danger. Globalization inflicts far greater dangers on the small fishermen of the Galapagos Islands than a fair fight with the raging ocean.
The boat hit a rock, the bottom was ripped open and the water started pouring into the boat. Until, well, it almost reached the engine, which shut off. As they had some leather skins on the boat, they made some huarache out of them, leather sandals. Then they set off walking in those in a zone that was almost entirely covered with lava rock. They walked for 5 days, and then one day we were surprised to see them turn up here on foot. When they went back to get the boat, there was a violent storm. The boat was completely wrecked. He's lost just about everything.
And yet, his son Ronald has never imagined his life anywhere else but out here on the water.
My name is Ronald Rojera. I was born here and I've been living here in the Galapagos for 38 years. In my family, we're all fishermen. My grandparents, my parents, my brothers, and then me. Even when I don't catch any fish, I'm happy anyway because it means there'll be more fish tomorrow. I'm going to use bait to attract the fish. I throw it in. We continue on. The bait in the water will attract the school of tuna. It's yellowfin tuna. There have always been fish here in the Galapagos. Firstly, because it's a wildlife reserve, and secondly, because we're careful and we only fish with fishing rods. I don't fish for sea cucumbers or sharks anymore. Nobody fishes for them anymore in the Galapagos. Ah, it's biting. We got a bite. Stay back there. We have to respect a lot of rules here in the Marine Reserve. For example, you can fish for tuna all year round, but the fishing is regulated by a timetable.
The fishermen in the Galapagos Islands have the strictest small-scale fishing rules in the world. First of all, because this is a marine reserve, but also a World Heritage Site. There are a limited number of permitted fishing methods. They're very small scale, with a very low impact on the ecosystems and on protected species such as sharks. Industrial fishing isn't permitted in the Galapagos, so you can't fish with big boats, only with small ones called fibras, which have 2 engines at the most. If fishermen don't respect the rules, there are severe penalties, heavy fines, thousands of dollars, which they can't always pay. It can go as far as having their fishing gear confiscated, which can put them out of business.
The professional destinies of Leonardo's children illustrate the ambivalence of the archipelago's economy between short-term income from tourism and the search for sustainable food independence.
I have 4 children, an older daughter and 3 sons. He's the last one.
The best.
They're not all fishermen. There's one who now works for the Galapagos National Park as a park warden. The other one leads excursions in the bay. He takes tourists to see the sharks. But he doesn't have his fishing permit anymore. If you work in tourism, you can't fish anymore.
Can't you combine the 2 activities?
No, they took away his permit. And the one who works as a park warden can't work as a fisherman either. Here on Isabella Island, there must be around 30 fishing boats now, no more. There was a time when there were more fishing boats. But in order to reduce the number of fishermen, the National Park proposed that they change their activity to tourism. Of course, that helped us. It was a great opportunity. But they also allowed people who weren't fishermen to lead kayak excursions.
La distancia me sosiego en todos los momentos en los que tenía que verte aquí.
In order to go further behind the scenes, we chose to stay on Isabella Island for a while. This island, with its 2,500 inhabitants, is reputed to be the most authentic of the archipelago. With its 4,600 square kilometers, it's also the largest, formed by 5 active volcanoes. The last eruption took place just 3 years ago.
So we're going directly to the foot of the volcano?
I think so, yeah.
Climbing the Sierra Negra is one of the must-do activities in the Galapagos. But to experience the trip differently, it's better to do it like Pierre and Aurélie, in the company of Paula Bloom.
But it's for you not to put. No, for me it's okay. Yeah, my stomach is very strong, exactly, Ecuadorian. Very, very sweet fruit. And very healthy.
Naturalist guide and mother, she's one of the archipelago's most socially conscious women. She knows how to tell stories to motivate people to take action.
Okay. Now, my friends, you will see the Darwin finch. Female, they are the color gray, male, color black. Around here, you can find many of them, but it's so difficult to recognize which species they are original, okay? Darwin finch, they are very important for Galapagos Island because thanks to them, Charles Darwin, they wrote the famous book about natural selection because, my friends, depend of the island that you can find the birth of Darwin finch species, they look like two different. They are look like bigger, and the big is totally different. Depend the adaptation, depend the food.
There's a rainbow.
I think that's the crater there, that dark mass we see.
Rainbow is just for you. It's because you have good energy, and now the Lord is happy that you stay here. Enjoy. Look the rainbow.
At an altitude of 1,124 meters, the caldera of the Sierra Negra, the Black Mountain, is the second largest in the world. A gigantic, volcanic crater with a diameter of over 9 kilometers.
80% of the caldera is clear and visible today. Enjoy it. In the center, in the part that's no longer active, there's vegetation growing. We'll maybe have to wait another 10 generations before this huge crater is completely covered with vegetation.
They are the two fumaroles around here, steam hole. The gas that producing the caldera in the magma chamber, you know the gas coming underground, and you can feel the heat around here.
Just here now.
Yes. Wow, the color.
Welcome to the Mars planet. Look the beautiful landscape that you can see around here. It's like other planet. Yeah, we are the winner. We winner to the Elon Musk. Because we don't need to spending money, because you stay in Mars planet. Look the many colors around here. Red, yellow, white, red iron. Yellow, sulfur. White is magnesium. And this is ashes. And you can touch, it's very light. It's not heavy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. This kind of lava rock you can find only here in new areas like this.
Makes you feel really small. When we set off, I wanted to get a true idea of how big the world is. And I think that the way you travel has a big influence on your perception of it. Because when you're just a 2-hour plane ride away, you don't realize just how far away it is. But when you're a 75-hour train ride away, as we were, you have more of a notion of distance, of how big the world is. So we have all the more reason to protect it, to have less of an impact on it.
The flat shells of these giant tortoises, evacuated during the last eruption, still bear the scars of the lava flows. Humans and wildlife placed on an equal footing against the force of nature. But while the Galapagos Islands are a sanctuary, the sea poachers are getting dangerously close to their borders, on the lookout for shark fins or turtle meat sold at a high price on the Asian markets.
Humans, we are the problems. Están pescando allá afuera de Isabela.
There are people fishing out there, just beyond Isabella Island. They're fishing for sharks. They're fishing for our animals, and I don't understand why the government tolerates that. We used to protect 200 miles of our territorial waters, and now we only protect 12 miles. And out there, people are hunting the Galapagos animals that make this place unique. And nobody cares. They just look the other way. So particularly for the future generations, for my children, I would like to make the Galapagos better than they are today. I hope a lot of people are aware of that. I want to preserve the Galapagos out of love because I love this place. It's everything to me. The Galapagos have given me everything. I love this place. I swear to God. I want my children to be able to enjoy the Galapagos too, not just for financial reasons. I'm sorry, but I'm a bit emotional.
On the heights of Isabella Island, as we continue our journey through the looking glass in the Galapagos, Modesto's family will prove to us the importance of universal values. Here, for generations, they've lived their lives on horseback. Modesto's ancestors settled on Isabella in the mid-19th century. This finca, far from the coast and tourism, is both the family's safe haven since the beginning of the health crisis and the bastion of a new beginning.
I'm Modesto, owner of Bella Vista Farm. I'm 67 years old.
Hello, I'm Modesto Jr. I'm 39 years old. I work with tourists, and when I have some free time, I help out with the farm and the horses.
Hi, I'm Anthony Modesto, Modesto number 3. I'm 17 and I'm always on horseback. I know them all by heart.
I was raised here on the heights until the age of 12.
A los 12 años, por los estudios, me tocó ir al puerto, vivir con mi papá.
Then I went to live near the port with my parents, where I worked in tourism.
Porque trabajo con turismo en mi carro.
But I always came back to the country. I always liked coming here.
Siempre me gusta estar acá.
With the pandemic, as everything was closed, there was no school, no tourism, no work. I came back here to live with my parents. I've been living with them since March 2020. This is a yucca branch. First we cut it off. Then we pull it up like this. My dad has always been in farming, in cattle breeding and farming. And then in 2020, we watched some YouTube videos to learn how to sow seeds, and we started doing it.
Ahí está, esta es cargadita.
It's very heavy. It's filled to the brim.
¿Cuál es la mira de nosotros?
We make our living from agrotourism. Tourists come here, they pull up the roots of the yucca, they take the yucca, they slice it, and eat it here. We learned a lot with the pandemic. We reinvented ourselves. For example, we built this space here last October during the pandemic. But my father's the one who had the idea. I'm proud to live with him and continue to learn from him.
I can say I'm happy here with my son, my other son, my daughter-in-law, who are all very resourceful. And my wife, who's been by my side for 42 years. I'm proud of them all because the ideas don't come from just one person. We're all looking in the same direction to survive economically. And for this, we have to try out new things. As a native islander, I was born and raised here, and I'm growing old here. I feel proud of my island. I would never leave it for another place. I love this island too much, and I believe that if God gave me life, I'll end it here on my native land.
This attachment to their archipelago is undoubtedly what connects all the men and women we met during our Through the Looking Glass journey. Crisis or not, nobody here ever thinks of leaving, of moving to the continent. A showcase of evolution, Darwin's Land teaches the world that the human species has the means to repair the environmental disasters it has itself created.